Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Robert Velasquez. Velasquez was shot and killed on Monday, November 1st, 2010, in the 4100 block of Zola Avenue in Pico Rivera, according to LA County coroner records. Enrique Medina, Michael Barrios, and Thomas Arrellanes were subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. On November 1st, 2010, defendant Barrios lived with Ms. Ruelas and their young son in Pomona. Barrios' half-brother, defendant Medina, also lived with them. When Ms. Ruelas came home from work at 6 p.m. that day, defendants Medina and Arrellanes were at the house with defendant Barrios. The three men were members of Brown Assassins. The men left together when it began to get dark. Defendant Barrios drove a gold or light brown SUV during that period of time. At about 9 p.m. that night, Mr. Caldera was in the front yard of a home on Dork Street in Pico Rivera with some friends when a brown SUV, later identified as defendant Barrios' SUV, stopped in front of the house. There were 4 occupants in the SUV. One got out from the front passenger door and approached Mr. Caldera. Caldera didn't know the man, but described the man as being in his mid-20s, Hispanic, 5'7" to 5'8", husky or muscularly built, wearing a hoodie or jacket and gloves. The man asked Mr. Caldera where he was from and about his Vallero tattoo. Caldera responded that Vallero meant love for the valley. The man said he had love for the valley and walked away. As he walked away, the man said, "Fuck viejo." Pico Viejo is a gang in Pico Rivera. It was a rival of Brown Assassins. Mr. Caldera initially identified defendant Medina as the man who had approached him on November 1st. However, at trial, Caldera identified defendant Barrios as the man who approached him. On November 1st, Miss Elizalde was sitting outside her residence on Zola Avenue in Pico Rivera with some friends. At about 10:30 p.m. that evening, she noticed a gold or pewter SUV, later identified as defendant Barrios' SUV, drive up and down Zola Avenue slowly, passing her house several times. Miss Elizalde testified that the SUV had a sticker at the bottom of the back window. After the SUV drove by Elizalde's house a 4th time, she noticed her neighbors, Ms. Rodriguez and the victim Robert Velasquez, walking south on Zola Avenue past her house. Miss Elizalde went inside her house. 5 to 10 minutes later, she heard several gunshots. Ms. Rodriguez and the victim sat on a wall in front of Ms. Rodriguez's house. They were smoking marijuana when Ms. Rodriguez heard a gunshot and saw a streetlight go out. After that, Ms. Rodriguez saw a brown or tan-colored SUV stop in front of her and the victim. Ms. Rodriguez testified the SUV had a sticker on the back window. Rodriguez also noticed 3 men inside the car: the driver, front passenger, and rear passenger. The men were wearing black or blue ski masks. The front passenger pointed a gun out the window and fired several shots. Ms. Rodriguez took cover behind the wall on which she was sitting, while the victim tried to run away. When the gunfire stopped, the SUV drove off and the victim lay motionless in Rodriguez's front yard. Ms. Rodriguez believed the shooting occurred close to 11 p.m. LA County Sheriff Deputy Rashford received the shots fired call at approximately 10:50 p.m. and he and his partner arrived at the crime scene within 5 or 10 minutes. Deputy Rashford saw the victim laying on his left side with what appeared to be a gunshot wound to the chest. Deputy Rashford did not see any weapon on or around the victim. The victim died from a gunshot wound to his chest. Sheriff's deputies recovered several .45 caliber bullets and 9 expended federal .45 caliber shell casings from the crime scene. The shell casings extended for 3 to 4 feet in a southerly direction. Ballistics tests showed that the shell casings and bullets were fired from the same gun, likely a Springfield .45 caliber pistol or a Colt. According to Ms. Ruelas, she woke up at about midnight and saw defendant Barrios asleep in the bed next to her. She testified that a couple of hours before that, she heard defendants Barrios and Medina come home. At about 4 a.m. on November 2nd, 2010, Pomona police officer Paul Fernandez saw defendant Barrios' SUV parked in the driveway on Diana Avenue in Pomona. He watched the SUV, saw headlights go on, and followed the SUV to a gas station where the vehicle stopped. Defendant Barrios and 2 other men were in the SUV. Barrios was arrested and was placed in the back of a patrol car where he remained for several hours. Deputy Kirk Holliday swabbed defendant Barrios' hands for gunshot residue at the time of his arrest. Later GSR testing showed that defendant Barrios had particles characteristic of gunshot residue on his hands, indicating that he had held the weapon, discharged the weapon, was near someone who fired the weapon, or had touched the source of gunshot residue. There were also particles consistent with gunshot residue on the front passenger seat and front passenger interior door handle. In addition, fingerprints belonging to defendant Medina were discovered on the front passenger exterior door handle. Inside defendant Barrios' SUV, Detective Ken Perry found one unfired bullet on the left rear passenger side floorboard. The bullet, a Federal .45 caliber, had been cycled through the gun which fired the casings recovered at the murder scene. The bullet had jammed and been ejected from the gun without being fired. As for a DNA mixture obtained from the right rear passenger area inside defendant Barrios' SUV, defendants Arellanes and Medina were both included as possible contributors to the mixture. On November 3, 2010, sheriff's deputies arrested defendant Medina in Ontario. The black hooded sweatshirt that Medina was wearing tested positive for gunshot residue. That same day, deputies arrested defendant Arellanes in El Monte. Arellanes tried to flee from the deputies prior to his arrest. Cell phone tower data evidence showed that on November 1st at 10:35 p.m., defendant Barrios' cell phone was using a cell tower that was about 1.5 miles from the crime scene. Similarly, defendant Arellanes' cell phone was using a cell tower that was about 2 miles from the crime scene at 10:10 p.m. on November 1st. The victim's murder occurred in Pico Viejo territory. In response to a hypothetical question that mirrored the circumstances of the shooting in this case, the gang expert opined that the crimes were gang-related and were committed in association with and benefited brown assassins. Following the trial, the jury convicted defendants Enrique Medina, Michael Barrios, and Thomas Arellanes of 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder, including gun and gang enhancements. The court sentenced defendant Medina to 40 years to life in state prison, consisting of 25 years to life for the murder conviction, plus 15 years to life for the attempted murder conviction. The court sentenced defendant Barrios and Arellanes to terms of 82 years to life in state prison, consisting of 25 years to life for the murder, plus 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement to the murder conviction, plus 7 years to life for the attempted murder, plus 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement to the attempted murder conviction. Robert Velasquez was 17 years old at the time of death.